Well, let's just all have unisex bathrooms and we'll just all have individual bathrooms. What's the answer on the sports teams? We'll all just have our own sports teams or something. What's the answer on, and so what happens is we all just become this undifferentiated androgynous consumer. That's all we do. All we are now is I don't want to sound like a commie or something, but this is being pushed not just by the leftist activists, it's being pushed by the entire liberal establishment and by corporate America and the whole power structure, which is just to take away all the ornamentation, all the differentiation, all the natural, lovely diversity of life and make us all just a bunch of blobs to buy a bunch of hormones and purchase their products.
And uniform actually means the same. One form. That's what uniform is for, is to make all the same. So they're stripping away the communist sameness of everything to create a weird world to then reconfigure it so that everyone...
Well, yeah, instead of having different kinds of uniforms in different areas of life for men and women, now it's literally we will just be uniform, undifferentiated blobs plugged into our computers and living in the metaverse and eating bugs.
I think that's absolutely where we're going. The deep fakery is getting so advanced so rapidly. Last time I was on Rogan, I said I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I was so wrong and so naive because I was looking at the modern iterations of deepfakes and I was just like, I'm not worried about that. I didn't stop to consider the rapid degree of advancement.
How long ago was that when you were on Rogan?
This was a year and a half ago.
A year and a half. Think about how fast.
Dude,
right.
AI has advanced so far in 6 months.
A year and a half ago, there was like one program that had accomplished voice manipulation and there were some goofy videos that were low res. And I was just like, I'm not worried about this. And then within a year and a half, it advanced to the point where I was on Instagram and I saw a Rogan clip and it's Joe advertising some, I think it was penis growth or something like that. Yep. Some weird like testosterone booster thing. And I was like, whoa. It was, if you watched it, you were like, that's a deepfake. If you were just passing through, you might not have noticed. And that's when I was like, oh man. Now we have that 11 Labs website where you can take 30 seconds of anyone talking, drop it in, and you can make them say whatever you want. Now I'm like, imagine what it's going to be like in a year. There's going to be a deepfake of Donald Trump giving a speech that looks completely real. He will say something kind of bad, but not really that bad, but bad enough to lose votes. And no matter what anyone says, the left will believe it.
I wonder if it'll get to the point where there'll be two presidents, according to everyone, and no one will know which one's the real one and which one's the fake one.
That's a good point because someone will make a deepfake clip of CNN and put it on Twitter, buy a verification, and then it'll be Don Lemon saying, Donald Trump has been reelected this 2024, and then people are going to see the clips and they're going to believe it. I mean, that's going to happen.
This AI stuff is actually the end of society. I know people like to claim that all sorts of advancements and innovations are the end of society. This one actually is because it impels people to just retreat into themselves for everything. So now we will retreat into our own fantasies for art. It makes great art. So the art that I put up on my walls, I can just type it into Midjourney or any of them and get a beautiful piece of art. It will, you'll be able to create these deep fakes of video and audio. It's obviously going to be applied to porn. I assume it actually probably already is being applied to porn. Is it? Yeah. And I'm sure in the future, I'm sure it will be. And so people will have no reason to engage in reality because one, you won't have any common referent to talk about. You'll just have, I'll have my video of Trump and you'll have your video of Trump and we'll both have made them up. I'll have my fantasy that I'm living in, be it personal, be it entertainment, be it sex, be it anything. And we'll all just be living in our pods plugged into our own fantasies. That is the end of community.
The only thing I can think that would change that, or one of the things, is if the power goes out. And I don't want the power to go out, but if it did, then the artificial intelligence would die.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm sorry.
But there's ways to make perpetual electricity, and I'm concerned about that.
This is why solar, wind, geothermal, and all
tapping the vacuum. I mean, it's possible. And an AI will figure out how to do that.
This is why they're so hell-bent on pushing that. Because they want to create... My pitch, I actually pitched this, half pitched it to you guys with the Daily Wire, an idea for a show where I'll try and give the super simple version. It takes place in a world that's like civilization's collapsed. There's only one city left and it's people. It's like the year 2130. Technology is comparable to what it is now. A conflict emerges between very thin, tall humanoid beings in white jumpsuits with chrome heads who can shoot lasers. Humans fight. No one knows how civilization collapsed, but they assume these creatures must have wiped out the planet, some kind of aliens. And then in the final episode of the season or whatever, there's a fight, and then someone hits like a crane release, which drops a boulder or a car onto one of these creatures and crushes it, disabling its force fields. They pull the chrome helmet off, and it's a human. Yeah. And the reveal is that society didn't collapse. It migrated underground into pods where humans all networked themselves with Neuralinks into a virtual world. And the reason why the last city was unaware of what happened to humanity is the news didn't stop. News was still being written, but it migrated. My example is, if someone came from the year 1900 to this time period, they'd immediately be like, get me a newspaper so I can learn about what's happening in the world. And then they would find that newspapers slowly started to disappear. If someone from the 1900s jumped 200 years in the future and then just tried to take a look at history based on their understanding of how to look through history, they would be like, newspapers ceased to exist in the year 2075. History was gone. We have no idea what happened. Humans, no, it just went online. So my idea for this show is there will be some humans who never migrate, and they will not have access to the metaverse historical archive. So to them, they'll just like their great grandchildren will be like, we don't know exactly what happened, but some kind of collapse happened, and we have no access. We just find these old records, these old websites and stuff and servers. We try to boot up and figure out where they all went.
The problem for those metaverse records, though, is that when everything is digital, you can just constantly change the records. This is the one of the prophecies of 1984.
And that's actually a component. This show would be fantastic because the people who live in the metaverse would have a warped view of reality because there would be oligarchs who rewrite history. But then the people who live in the real world with the physical, unalterable will like meet one of these people in the metaverse and be like, look at these archives that we've brought. And they're like, that's not history. And they'll pull up Wikipedia to show history. And it'll be last edited yesterday. And they'll be like, this book hasn't been re-edited in 300 years.